welcome to the Vintage House Show, Winter 2020. Today we have a fantastic guest, one of my friends I've known a long time. I'm only 21, so I've only known him 21 years. Mr. Dwayne Woods. Dwayne Woods is a sound pioneer for house music and other genres in and around Chicago. He's been outfitting most of the major clubs in Chicago with his sound systems from the age of 15, 16 till today. Welcome, Dwayne Woods. Thank you for coming on the show.
How you doing?
Good,
Thank
good,
you for
good.
having
Dwayne, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate you doing our first event. The first event that we had was at the Columbia College. The Dance Music Foundation had our first event at Columbia College, and you were kind enough to come on the show. And so I always appreciated that. I always felt like your story was never told as much as the DJs and some of the other people, but your story is probably more important to their stories. You can't have the party without the sound. But we're going to start with your Chicago story, Dwayne. Tell me where you were born. Were you born in Chicago?
Yes, I was. I was born here on 89th and King Drive in the Chatham area.
So 89th and King, Chatham. That's cool. Where'd you go to grammar school?
I went to grammar school at MacDade and Gillespie.
So
MacDade was, MacDade. We went to sixth grade, and then you had to go to like junior high for the last 2 years. So that was Gillespie.
Got it. And so in Gillespie, at Gillespie, were you listening to a lot of music? How were you introduced to music in certain ways? What was going on at your in sort of your grammar school years? Because we have a lot of our interviewees, a lot of our pioneers are talking about being involved in the music at the age of 11, 12, 13. Were you involved in music at all or sound at all during those times?
You know, not at first. I must have been probably.
Put your, I'm losing a little bit of your face in the thing. So.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yeah, it must have been somewhere around the freshman year of high school when us as kids, we were trying to see who had the loudest home stereo. Um, just goofing around, and I remember no money. So, back then, and I guess this is important because it is foundation for me. I actually would kind of look to see who threw away a stereo component set, those old units like we used to have in our house with a one big box.
Right.
With the record player and stuff. And a lot of times somebody would throw one of those away and I would find it and I would strip all the components out of there, the speakers and the amp, and I'd take it home and I'd kind of put it on the floor and almost electrocute myself wiring it back up. But it would work.
Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead. So from Gillespie, you go to Lindblom Technical High School. So why Lindblom? Why did you decide to go to Lindblom?
Well, all my family went to Lindblom, and there wasn't a desire for a technical background. It was just that's where my family went. So I wound up going there too. But, when I got there, I found interest in the wood shop, and I found interest in the electric shop. So back then, I was starting on my speaker designs, and I wanted to build speakers, and the wood shop helped me to, build whatever I thought and whatever I wanted to have. So that's where I started building speakers in the wood shop.
So you're 13 years old, you're finding thrown out speaker systems and you're taking them apart and putting them back together again.
Exactly.
How long did it
Big
take
tube
you to become
amplifiers, huh?
How long did it take you to get good at doing that? Was that very quickly, or within a year were you just building a bunch of systems?
Um, you know, it was just to have a record player up in my bedroom, you know. So I had this old tube amplifier and this old piece of turntable thing, and I didn't even have real needles. I used, believe it or not, I took a straight pen and I bent a little angle on it and I taped it to the cartridge. And the it worked. The only problem is it didn't. The record didn't last too long because it was just gouging out
You're
the
right.
record.
Exactly.
But man, I was playing Boogie Nights, and it was like, wow, I'm playing Boogie Nights, and back then, you paid 99 cents for 45.
Right.
So, you know, I had a few 45s and I was playing them with my straight pen needle. I was tearing up the records. The record would play about 5 times, and on the fifth time, it'd be all scratchy and poppy because
That
it
is
gouged
crazy.
out the grooves. But it worked.
So 1980, you're putting together your own sound systems across the board from the turntable to the speakers. And so so again, were you into music? What were you, what single vinyl, records were you playing? Why would you want to do that? Were you into music or you just were into sort of understanding the sound?
Well, you know, I guess I just wanted, you want to play a record. When we were kids, you wanted to play. The family were playing records. You wanted to play a record. But I mean, I didn't have a record player, so I made it. We made it, and that's what I used. And then later on, um, that just kind of fell by the wayside, and I was pretty much just playing things that was recorded on tapes. Because you could record something off the radio, and then you had it, and then you would play that, and then I just was trying to amplify it with whatever little amplifier I could, come up with. Sometimes it was some real basic, crude, you know. I had like a car stereo equalizer booster thing that we used to put in cars, but you could hook that up to a small radio and you could boost it in your house as long as you had like a battery or a power supply that was very similar to a car. So I had a 12-volt power supply hooked up to this equalizer booster thing, and I was thinking I was having extra power, trying to make it louder, and it worked. It was humming like all get out, but it was working.
So it worked. So 1980, you're a freshman at Lindblom Technical High School. You're building these sound systems, and what happened? So were you telling people you were doing this? Were people coming over your house? How did people know you were building sound systems?
Well, you know that kind of got you moved beyond what happened in the beginning. In the beginning, I was with most of my peers, and we were going to Mendel High School to party.
Right.
And I wasn't thinking about DJing. I wasn't thinking about building speakers. I was just going along with the crowd up to Mendel. And the DJ at that time was a friend of mine that I went to grammar school with, and then he went on to Mendel, and it was Ernest Nathan.
Ernest.
Now,
Ernest
Ernest
what?
lived around the corner. You remember? You know Ernest.
I don't think I know. Ernest, what's his last name?
Nathan.
Ernest Nathan. Does
Yeah.
Ernest still live in Chicago? Where is Ernest
Yes,
today?
he does. Yep.
We got to talk to him.
So Ernest and I, we went to grammar school together, and then Ernest went on to Mendel, and I went on to Limblom. Well, when Mendel's were having parties, Ernest was the DJ. And since Ernest lived around the corner from us, when we would have like a block club party, Ernest would come out and he would DJ. And me and a buddy of mine, his name is Brian, he's deceased now. But we were all looking Ernest like, wow, that's pretty cool, DJ. And we watched Ernest, and Ernest was like way ahead of his time because he was all G8 with Giorgio Armani and dressed all nice, and back then everybody was wearing polo and Izod, and all that preppy stuff was coming into play, and we watched them play music. So Brian and I, we went over to Ernest's house, and he had like cool gobs of records, and we were kind of messing around with some music, and we was like, man, that's pretty cool. We like to do that. So Ernest sold me a mixer, my first mixer, which was a Gemini.
Okay.
And I got a hold of some turntables, which back then were some Technic belt drives. And Brian and I started playing music, in my bedroom, 2 or 3 albums, whatever we got a hold of. And remember, I had already made some amplifiers and speakers from early on, so I used that along with that mixer stuff, and we basically started mixing. And within a very short period of time, that invited so many people, friends, because everybody was trying to be a DJ. And we would go up to the McDonald's on Blackstone, after school. Brian went to Corliss, I went to Limblom. People were from CBS, Kenwood, Steve Hurley, Farley Keith, Batman. Everybody was up there at this McDonald's. And we just listened and watched what, at that time, the Farleys and the Steve Hurleys, and we listened to their mixes. And we was like, man, I want to do that. So we would, come home and try to copy what they were doing. And eventually, it just turned into a hobby of DJing. It turned into meeting other people that were DJing. And when you ask, well, when do people start using your speakers? Well, what happened was from going to the parties, and also I used to do a lot of reading on speaker designs. I saw the larger format of speaker boxes, the stuff that you call DJ speakers. And I started to want to design them, and I wanted to copy them, and I wanted to make what I saw. And that's what I started doing.
What years were that? What years were you doing that?
That was towards my, I would say, my junior year. That was in my junior year. I was probably about 16.
So that's 1982, 1983.
Right. So the first opportunity we had to DJ, because see, now you remember we're trying to be DJs.
Okay.
So we had an opportunity. I had some people that went to Whitney Young, was Meredith, and
Sweet MD.
yeah, you know him,
Mm-hmm.
and also Tim McAllister.
Timmy.
So we got an opportunity. We got hired to DJ the sock hop at Whitney Young.
What? You
So
did Whitney Young before you did you did Whitney Young before you did Lindblom?
yes, we did a sock hop at Whitney Young. So we borrowed speakers from our friend Ernest. Remember, I told you he had big speakers, and I kind of put together whatever could make noise in that gymnasium, and we did a party, and that was probably like one of the first ones. And
Nice.
then after that, um, we were doing parties, different places.
So let's talk about those different places. So from Whitney Young, where do you remember going next? Think about it.
Well, we did Whitney Young sock hops. We did Lindblom sock hops. Um, but remember, I was still in high school, so I didn't have transportation. So a lot of times, somebody who owned a truck or whatever would help me out. Um, and we did basement parties. That's what we did a lot of basement. We I ran into my friend Ferris Thomas. He was doing house music, and him and my buddy JJ James Ford, they all introduced us, and we became buddies. You know, and Ferris then Ferris was excellent. He's always been excellent on the mixing skills, and we tried to compete with each other. You know, we tried to uh, do good mixes that made sense. Um, Started hanging with Eric E.T. Taylor,
right,
and
another Lindblom.
Him and Steve Hurley had a certain style of mixing that involved counting the beats and knowing how many beats you come in on breaks and how many beats you come out on breaks. And we started doing a lot of that. But what happened, I was still mixing, but I wanted speakers. So while mixing, I was trying to build speakers in the basement. And every time I built some speaker that sounded nice, and I would go to a party and DJ, the DJs that would go from party to party to party, they would come and say, hey, Dwayne, blah, blah, but they would ask me, whose speakers are those? I'm like, those are mine. And they was like, man, what would you charge me if you brought that to the party I'm DJing down the street? And I would say, well, if you let me spin, I might not charge you nothing. So here we go. Ferris is spinning a basement party, and I bring some speakers. Little John spins a basement party, and I bring some speakers. My buddy Frank Berry spins a basement party. I bring speakers, and uh, it just evolved. You know, well, that was good, but it's you can make it better. Well, what about if I add this, or if I change that? Then I would do that, and I'd bring those speakers. And next thing you know, it wasn't about DJing; it was about speakers. And it was kind of cool because you go someplace and your music be I tore up a lot of speakers, but you go someplace where things be sounded pretty good, and people would they would appreciate what you did, and I felt special, felt good. Um, and the next thing I know, I started to learn a little bit more about higher quality speakers and what made stuff, do better. And by that time, I was getting ready to come out of high school. So I went to DeVry.
Okay.
And being in DeVry, I had a few opportunities. By that time, I was driving. I had a few more speakers. I had my father allowed me to keep the speakers in the kitchen because when we go out, we would go out on a Saturday or Sunday. I mean, a Friday or Saturday, and it'd be another party the next week. So we couldn't be taking that stuff up and down the stairs,
Right.
tearing the walls up in the house. So it started stacking up at the in the kitchen, and then it moved from the kitchen to the garage because they, got some more speakers. And I remember I decided that I could do something that can help out. So I printed up a business card, and you asked me. You said, "What was Earthquake Sound?" That was the name that I had given myself because people used to give their uh, entrepreneurship names. Uh, there was a BTO. That was the name of a group that DJ'd and rented equipment. There were Water Wall Sounds. There was Galaxy, my friend DeAndre. Uh, there were a couple other companies. So I called myself Earthquake. And I would go out and I had stencil Earthquake on the side of the speakers and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because back then you wanted the business, so you put your name on the speakers, and hopefully somebody would see us sitting at a party and say, "Hey, what would what would it cost or whatever?"
Right.
And
I'm going to ask you about that when we pull up some of the artifacts, but I'm going to have you go back just a little bit because we've skipped over high school just a little bit, and I want to, again, one of the key reasons why, I remember you were accomplishing, I believed, very major adult-like goals is because when I was 16, you were 17, probably, maybe almost 18. You took me in a car, as I'm trying to figure out where the car came in, because you had a car at 16, and we were at a basement party. It was Lisa Boseman's from Lynn Bloom's basement party, which she lived on like 100th and like Carpenter or something like that. And you said, "Do you want to go with me while I check on some equipment?" I said, "Fine, no problem." I get in a car with you, and you take me to, I don't know, two or three places in which you left me for some time. And these places with these huge speakers and people, men dancing together. I remember that. I always remember there were men dancing together. I thought it was a little odd, but I never questioned it. I just thought, hey, men are dancing together. But at 16, you did have a car and you did have speakers at clubs. So there's a huge transition there that we're missing. At what point you were doing sock house, but at what point were you putting speakers in clubs that you had to check on to make sure that things were still going well?
well, uh, basically, what would happen is a promoter would say, "I'm having a party, and the sound system over here doesn't sound good. Could you bring some speakers?" And I would. But then that club owner would say, "Man, we haven't had sound as good. What would it be involved if, you let us use this on a weekly basis or whatever?" And that's kind of how what you're talking about comes about.
So this is very special, Dwayne, by the way. This is not every 17-year-old was not renting speakers to major clubs. You know what we were doing? We were in the basement kicking it. You were out making money. So talk to me about the club. What were first of all, the promoters and then the clubs? What were some of the first promoters who said, I mean, you're a teenager saying, "Hey, can you lend me or allow me to use some of your speakers?" What were some of the first promoters who uh, who talked to you first?
I attribute a lot of the large beginning parties to John Hunt, Steve Poindexter. Um, those two guys in the very beginning recognized that I was making speakers and that they were sounding pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And they decided to throw parties and they hired me to bring the speakers. And those promoters, they were going around a lot of places. Leo, uh, Academy Our Lady, the one that was on, I can't think up on the third floor there. Not Longwood, that was Academy Our Lady, but there was another one, Aquinas. I mean, they were just all the high schools. They had contracts.
Wow.
To throw these night parties, and they were very influential in saying, Wayne, we want to use you, Wayne. I was like, okay, I don't know if it's because I was cheap or
how much were you charging? Do you remember what you were charging back then?
That was back then.
Because I see the parties, the Pluckers had $2 or $3 or $5 to get in. So it couldn't have been much, but it was still substantial because the other thing I remember, Dwayne, is that we were walking out and you had cash in your hand. And I was, again, as a 15, 16-year-old, like, wow, that's a lot of money, but I didn't even question. You could have been a drug dealer. I didn't even care. I was just like, yo, where are we going? So I'm like, you had a bunch of cash on you. And so you were making some dough. It was definitely, I think, for a 17-year-old, sizable dough.
But, back then, no matter how much money you had, if it was better than no money.
Exactly.
And you're always appreciative because nobody was, at least I wasn't born with whatever I wanted. It was always given. I was hustling, I mean, the bottom line, when we were hustling, everybody was on the grind, and it was a time where there was a lot of unity, a lot of unity, and people were throwing parties and having fun. Things were safe. Like you say, you were out with me. It was no concern about nothing dangerous happening at all. In the house community, it's never been a concern about anything dangerous. It was never about being a danger. It was always fun. It was always exciting.
It was always a good time.
That's kind of like what happened.
Can I tell you that again? I'll say this again. I won't tell our story anymore, but it was so impactful to me. Clearly, that sort of one evening, just hanging out with you. You said, "I'll be right back," and you really put me on some kind of. I remember us going downstairs to some place. I remember it being kind of creepy. It was dark, but you went inside. It was all lit up, and you said, "Stay here. I'll be right back." And I was dancing on a speaker by myself. I was just like I was just dancing, house music. I'm just partying, and I remember the thought in my head, like, I have no idea where I am. And what if Dwayne never comes back? But I put it out of my head immediately, kept dancing, didn't even ask where I was. And eventually, there you came out. It must have been, I swear to God, it had to be 30 minutes to an hour. You were gone a long time. And I was still just partying, literally by myself. Men are dancing with each other. No one's paying attention to me, But it was, I never felt unsafe. It was like, I'm sure I'll get home at some point because clearly I was far away from home. It was just it was a great evening. I remember getting back to Lisa Bozeman's house and saying, dang, I got to go home. Like this sucks, like this is just a good time. And I just remember, again, that you were to me, I felt like you were doing very adult things. And the rest of us are partying like a 16-year-old at a Sweet 16 party. I realized there's a disparity between sort of our experiences in the world. I should be trying to make money. That's what I started my whole mind thought differently about music at that moment, which is why that time was impactful to me. So people are asking you, so now you have music, and you had music at a club. What club was that? Where were we going to look at your music in a club? Your speakers in a club.
You know, I wish I could pinpoint and tell you what it was or what name it was, but I don't even remember. Um, there was a time when I thought I could do like three parties a night. You know, a couple of high school parties and then a hotel or something like that, and I would pull it off. But I don't remember all the places. I can tell you something that was very impressionable on me. I have a buddy. His name is DeAndre Sanders. And DeAndre was doing the same thing that I was doing. He's a hustler too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's responsible for what they call Galaxy Promotions. And he also rented out sound equipment.
Okay.
Well, DeAndre bought a pair of my first design speakers. They were called Swoops. And
How much did he pay for them?
who knows, a couple $100 or something.
Okay.
But anyway, he had bought them, and he said, "Man, I like those speakers. You know, let me buy them." I said, "Okay," because I was making some more. And that night, DeAndre, now, you know, I hadn't really stayed out like to real like 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'd been coming in at 3 at the latest. But that night, uh, I was hanging with DeAndre. He said, "Man, you can hang with me." I'm like, "Okay, D." So I had never been to the music box. We talking about Lower Wacker Drive. So DeAndre had this old raggedy van, and we riding, and we go underneath downstairs. I said, "Where we going?" He said, "We're going to the music box." I said, "Well, Ron Hardy." He's like, "Yeah, Ron Hardy." I said, "Okay." So we park under Lower Wacker, and all I hear is, which is a which is a sound of tweeters, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden I hear doo 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 doo. Now we walking up to the we're under Lower Wacker. People are all hanging out in front of the entrance to the music box, and then you hear, you know, and then doo 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 doo, and I'm like, okay. So we get up to the club, and I'm feeling that energy, you know, and I'm with a couple of people too, and I'm with DeAndre, and then you know they say, "Hey D, what's going on?" And DeAndre, he with me, you know. So we go in, and you know it's like a hole in a wall.
Right.
You know, everybody's like on top of each other on one side, and you come up, you see this little section, all this fruit and stuff on the table, some candles and some other stuff. And D is like, "Yeah, man, you know, I got my equipment down here." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." So then we turn the corner, and it's like I'm holding my ears, you know, it's like, you know, I can't even make the sound, but
Right. I know.
all you hear is tick, 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 doom, 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 baby, 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 baby. And I'm like, damn. And he was like, "What you think?" And I was like, "Sound pretty good." And he was like, "Yeah." And there, on that bass, he had my speaker set. He had two of them.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Those are the speakers I sold." He's like, "Yeah, man." I was like, "Man, they kicked it." He was like, "Yeah." So for me, you know, it was like I sold those speakers, and they had, you know, thumping at the music box.
Wow. What year?
You know,
That. What year is
and
that?
I looked at Ron Hardy, and Robert. I didn't know any of these people at this time, but when they knew that I was the designer of that particular speaker, and then they knew I was renting speakers. Later on, they started hiring me to bring speakers, and I got to know Ron Hardy, and I got to know Robert, and you know, just that was that was the very first though.
That's a great night. So what year was that? What year were you at the Music Box?
Oh, that had to have been about that might have been about 85, right out of the blue.
So yeah, so 85. And so you rented him you sold him those speakers in 85 or sometime before that?
No, right in 85.
So right at 85, and so he immediately had them at the Music Box. Wow.
Right.
So that is serious business. So so I'm gonna now share the screen and just throw up a few things, some artifacts from the past that I want to share with you. I want you to talk to me a little bit about. So this is a lot of this is Gene Hunt's collection. When we did the Dance Music Foundation had an archival exhibit of Gene Hunt's collections, and when we talked to him about those clothes, we did several interviews with him, and in almost every interview, he said Dwayne Woods. I was like, we're talking to Gene Hunt. Gene Hunt's talking about Dwayne Woods. So I said, and we've got to talk more to Dwayne Woods, which is why we had you at one of the first things. So here is an event at the Hummingbird. This says Galaxy Jiguchi, but did you have a lot of things at the Hummingbird? What do you remember about the Hummingbird? Who owned the Hummingbird? Who was allowed?
The Hummingbird, between Armando and a few other promoters, they would hire Terry Hunter, Emmanuel, Mike, Gene, Ferris, because the Hummingbird would throw a party almost 2 or 3 a month. Mm-hmm. There was an old guy named Johnny that used to run the Hummingbird.
Okay.
And Disco Dave, all these guys, we would all throw parties at the Hummingbird. And a lot of times they would ask me to set up equipment. See, when I was never satisfied with just having something that you go by and use it. I always wanted to make something. I wanted it to be fabulous. I wanted it to be impacted. I wanted to have, I wanted to leave an impression on somebody. So I had all type of concert stuff that I had access to get. And I was using that where other people were just using speakers in a box. I had horn-loaded stuff, stuff with big mounts on it, and I was making multiple speakers instead of one. I'd have 4, and I just wanted it to be impressive. So, all of the DJs, the Terry Hunters, and the Ferris, Little Lewis, mm-hmm. They liked that. They liked that I was making something that was impressive. I remember a very famous sound man. His name is French. He's still alive, and he's a very good friend of mine. He had these speakers that had 4 15-inch woofers in them. Oh, and they were awesome speakers. So I made me a pair, and we called them quad bottoms. And we called them quad bottoms because they have 4 15s in them. And these things were heavy, but there was nothing like it. You know, nobody had quad bottles like these.
Wow. So Mr.
And
G's, what do you remember about this? Is a Mr. G's that's like way west. It sounds like not the Mr. G's that we know of. That's on 87th. Were you doing things at Mr. G's that's on 87th, or do you know anything about this Mr. G's on Chicago Avenue?
no, I don't know anything about a Mr. G's out west. Just the Mr. G's on 87th Street. But I was doing parties over there under the title of My House Supper Club.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
With Marcus Mix. You remember him?
I don't remember Marcus Mix, no.
Yeah, but it was My House Supper Club. That's when I was doing parties over there.
What years was that?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't remember that. That had to be 80. A lot, a lot transpired between 85 to 89. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of parties. There was a lot of growth. It wasn't just, a 20-year span. It was a short year span with a lot of growth.
Right.
So you had Hummingbird, you had some Mr. G's, you had the like I said, you had the Supper Club, you had that place that used to be on 103rd. I can't think of it now, but they threw parties also.
I'm gonna keep going. So here's the Hyde Park. Here you are. Well, here's another party at the Hyde Park Athletic Club. I don't know what was yours, but did you do things at the Hyde Park Athletic Club as well?
That's attributed to John Hunt and Steve Poindexter. They pioneered that along with Marvin Terry. They turned that place out. Right. But another place they turned out was the South Shore Country Club.
Ah, yes.
They gave that party started at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon to 12. We had the country club rocking on like a Martin Luther King's birthday. Oh my God. Wow. They had that joint on fire.
So your speakers in there. How many kids do you think were packed inside of these places?
How many what?
How many kids do you think were packed inside of these places?
Oh, 850 to 1,200, 1,500 sometimes.
Wow. So here
we're talking about large venues like the South Shore Country Club. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a good 850 to 1,000.
Wow.
And then Lewis at the Bismarck used to pack in 1,500. I did a lot of Little Lewis parties.
I see some. So talk to me about this deal right here. This is Gentle Persuasion, 89th and Ashland. It says Earthquake Sounds and Lighting. So you already mentioned.
Let me tell you.
Yes.
That's my party.
Yes.
When did you get that?
Gene Hunt.
Okay. You remember when we were in high school, the young lady, her father was James, and he owned General Persuasion.
Oh, what? So who was, you saying one of our classmates was the...
Father was James, that owned General Persuasion, yes.
Interesting, wow.
And when she hired me to DJ their party, we found out that you could throw parties. So I asked James. I said, James, can I throw a party here once a week? And he said, oh, yeah, as long as, you can afford it. I said, okay. Now, that's why it says first time ever. All of those DJs were all my friends. And I knew that if I wanted to have a party with a big crowd, I'd have to put everybody on a ticket.
Right.
And they all agreed to go on a ticket for me.
Nice.
And I stacked speakers up to the ceiling. And I'm telling you, we had General Persuasion thumping.
Nice.
It was
Nice.
thumping.
So talk to
And
me
here
about
comes
just
Little Lewis. For the first time, he plays French Kiss.
oh.
See, nobody had heard French Kiss. And Little Lewis come in. And everybody had been playing, and Lewis puts on French Kiss. And it's everybody's like, oh man, that's cut. But when that shit start going, and it stopped, everybody went bananas. They were like, man, what is that?
That was the hype.
Was that, I don't know if that was French Kiss. Did they call that French Kiss?
I think it was French Kiss, yes.
But whatever that record, that man.
So tell me though, so you're telling me that he debuted that song at your party at Gentle Persuasion?
Yes.
Are you sure, Dwayne?
Look, at least he debuted it for me. I hadn't heard him play it no place else.
So who is Mike? Mike who? I'm assuming that's Andre Hatchett, Lil Lewis. Who is Mike? Mike who?
You know, it could be three different Mikes. It wasn't Mike Dunn because it would say Mike Dunn.
Right.
It was back then. It might have been Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. So we see a lot of. I see a lot of pluggers with Mike Williams on there. Where's Mike Williams today?
Oh, you know, that's my partner, Mike. I saw him about 3 years ago. He's doing well. He's not really DJing anymore. But that was Mike Williams. He used to DJ. Great guy.
Nice, nice, nice. So earthquake sounds and lighting. And so the reason why this was important for me to pick out for you is that I always thought you sort of operated very covertly, Dwayne. I didn't know earthquake sounds and lighting was you. And not only that, I never saw you sort of highlighted as the sound guy in any of these posters or pluggers or things like that. And so how come you never really, even though this is your own party, but talk to me about why you didn't sort of demand that people put your name or Earthquake's name sort of somewhere on the plugger so that you can get more, the same way you were digging your name into the speaker itself. If you were on all those pluggers and all those different posters, then there would have been 9,000 people trying to figure out who Earthquake was.
Well, actually, they used to do that. They did used to put the name, sound and lighting by Dwayne Woods, or sound and lighting by Earthquake Sounds, or they did that. Not all pluggers, because some promoters knew that if people knew who was bringing the sound system, they kind of knew what it was going to be, sounded real good. So some promoters put it on there and some promoters didn't.
Right.
Some promoters were interested in more about the DJ. I mean, it was always with the DJs. Mm-hmm. I was kind of like the added attraction, you know. So they did that. They did that a little bit. You know, it wasn't every plugger, but they did it a little bit.
So clearly you were at all these, different clubs, but you still did some of the university parties. Of course, I'm sure I hired you several times for AKA parties, but you were at Northwestern quite a bit. Did you do the college scenes as well, or do you remember coming to Northwestern at all?
Well, yeah, we went to Northern. I used to go to Northern for Terry Hunter and Mike Dearborn, and also Chris Luss of Luss Productions. Chris Luss and Jamie 3. You know him as Jamie 326.
Okay.
But before he was Jamie 326, it was Chris and Jamie Lusk.
Okay.
And I used to do parties for them um, at Northern, at where else have we been to? Western. We used to go to Western with Dwayne Woods. Um, I've been to Bradley with Ferris. So we've been around.
So you were doing all kinds of things. So um, I'm gonna throw up just a couple of other things. We're gonna just take it back just a little bit. I just want to make sure I get through some of these. So here you are again at the Hummingbird, 1985. You're out of school for a year, so at that point, I'm just getting out. It's a sounds by Dwayne Woods. You mentioned James Ford and Walter Lawson. Who was? Give me the Walter Lawson and James Ford. Who were they?
Walter who?
Walter Lawson. It's on your thing. You see this plugger?
Yeah, I see. It's kind of small for me, but
I can bring it up a little higher. Who was James? Who was James Ford? The name James Ford sounds familiar, but I can't place who James Ford is. Who was James Ford?
James Ford went to Limblom with us. We stayed. You knew him at Limblom under the name JJ.
Oh, yeah, that name sounds, yeah, it sounds familiar. Yep, I think I know you're talking about. Because I feel like, yeah, JJ. Yep, I know who you're talking about now. Yep, I get it now. I almost forgot about him. Clearly, I
And
forgot.
this is when I was DJing.
So you were the DJ. And so here it
Yeah.
is again. Here's another one early in 1985, music by Dwayne Woods and James Ford. What was James Ford doing? Was he was DJing too?
Yes, he was DJing, and that group JF. That's JF from Limblom, right?
It's Jeff from Limblom, yeah.
Yeah. So they were hiring us, to DJ their parties. I did the family parties, JF parties. We used to, they used to do over at the place called the Blue Gargoyle.
Oh wow,
I did parties over there. Yeah.
that's interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna move past all the clubs. Clearly, your business is growing tremendously. You're making money. You went to DeVry. Did you stay at DeVry very long, or did you graduate from DeVry? Did you just start making money, with your sound systems?
Say that again.
Did you stay at DeVry, or did you just continue to start making money because you were already a businessman at this point? So I'm trying to figure out why would you continue on with DeVry?
Well, what happened? Um, I was still at DeVry, um, and yeah, I'm trying to come up with money here and there, for whatever people paying doing parties. Um, I complete DeVry, and now, you I still need a real job. So after leaving DeVry, uh, I get involved with car stereo installation.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal.
Right. So now I'm putting all this loud music in cars, sounding like parties.
Right.
And I'm doing like multiple things. I'm doing car stereo installation in the daytime, and at night I'm setting up equipment, and I'm just I'm just running around, and I'm still meeting more and more DJs. I'm being exposed to all of the big name DJs today. The Andre Hatchets and Tony Hatchett and Celeste Alexander and Ron Hardy and Frankie Knuckles. I mean, all these people I've been exposed to, and I'm working for them. Uh, I did so many Frankie Knuckles parties. It's a lot of Frankie Knuckles parties. Dave Risque, I was working with for him. Um, I did work for uh, Ron Ron Hardy. Um, the place called the Gallery 21, which was a place that stood for about maybe 3 weeks, but it was a hell of a party.
Where was
my partner Richard Cotton brought me on that one. Richard.
Where was it? Where do you remember? Where was it?
I think it was off of Lake Street, a couple blocks north off of Lake Street. I forgot what was the cross street, but it was on the second floor, and Rich Corner. He brought me in. Frankie Knuckles was the DJ with Mike Winston, and you talked about a party. Man, party started about 12:30, 1 o'clock. It started.
I think I remember that. So that was on Lake Street, like displays, it was on the third floor,
something like that.
Yeah,
about 2 blocks north.
Yeah, definitely. And it was like just a rickety elevator that took you up to like third floor.
No elevator. You just went up a flight of stairs.
I remember some parties on Lake Street, under the train tracks, and it was just there for a small amount of time. But I didn't know it had a name, but it felt like a gallery. But anyway, so if you could, we're talking about some of these clubs, and I know these clubs come and go, but you're with Frankie at different places. If you can remember some of the club names or the locations of where you were partying with just supporting Frankie's and Ron's.
I was at some of the places that I know had nostalgia. Edge in the Looking Glass with Charles and Rhonda Flowers.
Yes.
That was my debut with them. Charles and Rhonda, Edge in the Looking Glass. Nice place. Had a nice vibe to it. I used to go to, for Ron Hardy up north, there was a place called Igloos. It was a theatrical place, but they would have parties with Ron Hardy and Robert. That had nostalgia. I used to go to AKAs. That when they used to throw parties up there, John Hunt, Armando. That was a big to do.
Where's Armando? Where's Armando?
Armando passed. Yeah. Armando went to Limblom with us too.
No.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I don't remember
Armando went to Limblom.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So, yeah. I remember lots of hotel parties with Gucci and promotions. And with Chicago Bad Boys. Steve and John, Steve and John, we had lots of parties. I remember another place, now this was more of a gay club, but it was called the Bad Boys Club. That was with Lee Collins and Andre Hatcher off for a while. That was an experience. They used to party till 6 o'clock in the morning.
Where was that?
That was on Wabash at a daycare. Believe it or not, a guy named Johnny put that on.
Wow.
Yeah. Johnny and Steve. They and Lee Collins and Frankie Knuckles, Andre Hatchett, all DJ'd there.
Wow, at a daycare. That is amazing.
Daycare. It had like 4 different rooms. It was a daycare in the daytime and a nightclub on Saturday night.
Wow, Wabash and what? Give me Wabash and what do you think that was?
You know where that Giordano's is on Wabash?
This Giordano's on Michigan.
No, it used to be one on Wabash.
North Wabash, you're talking about.
South. Yeah, right underneath the railroad tracks, right down from the college.
Huh, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, so very close to like six like Polk Street, Balboa, somewhere around there.
yeah,
Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
We
That
did
is
that. There have been parties at the hotels. You know, all kind of hotels have parties. You know, back then they would have a party, but you only do it once because once the hotel found out, you know, they didn't want you back down there no more.
that
It
is
was a lot.
crazy.
It was a lot went on.
I can imagine that.
A lot of DJs. A lot of. Uh, uh, I work with a lot of the DJs I work with, and I have a lot of respect for them because they all had great talent. They do great things, all of them. And
All
then the
very
thing
talented
about it, they
artists,
went on to be even more successful.
which is great, which is good. That's important. And so, actually, I'd like to sort of talk to you a little bit. You've had a storied career, and of course, most people would think, of course, I love the fact I love your origin story more than your story today. But a lot of people, who just enjoy the chosen few picnics, may not recognize that you are the music and the sound behind the chosen few picnics. When did you start collaborating with them on their events?
Well, um, Terry, I owe so much to Terry Hunter because Terry never forgot about roots. Um, before Terry was Terry, and he was DJing as like just one of the extra DJs at a Gucci promotion party. When he was still in high school, Cherry's exact words were, "Hey man, what do you have to do to be, you know, like the headline DJ?" Because that's who Ferris was, and Little John. They were headliners. And I told Terry, I said, "You just have to, you know, do your due homage. You know, you'll get there." And I remember I used to come pick Terry up from Hyde Park, and I watched Terry Hunter go from just somebody who DJing to the person you see him as today, the promoter, the producer, the executive, everything he is. But the thing that Terry never forgot was him and I kicked it when he was down there. And we still kick it when he up here, you know. And Terry is the one who brought me in.
What year
When
was
the
that?
chosen few put Terry in their mix
Uh-huh.
and made him a member, the first thing Terry said was, "We got to get a real sound man here. And I want my buddy Wayne." Terry's always said that. He always said, "Wayne, you're going to be my sound man forever." I said, "Really?" He said, "Look, man, wherever I go, you're going to go." So
What year was that,
that's what
Dwayne?
he kept true to. And, you know, I appreciate that because, you know, as long as I want to be on the ride, you know, I'm riding with him.
What year would you say that was when you were brought in to do the sound for the Chosen Few picnic? What year was that?
Uh, the second year after Terry was on board because I'm not sure, maybe about 9 years ago or so. Because when they brought Terry on board, the second year Terry was like, we can't play on this. We got to, we got to step up our game.
Right.
And he was like, "Wayne, I want you to bring out the sound for us." I was like, "Okay, Terry." And I got him a stage, and I put that sound system. That's when the chosen few started about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It didn't even start at 6 in the morning or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I got him a stage, and we put the speakers out there. And the next year, he was like, "Man, we got to turn this up a notch." And we kept, we kept turning it up and turning it up, turning it up. And finally, you know, it got to what you all see it now.
That's
You
amazing,
know,
Dwayne. That is
it is
amazing.
because sometimes we live here in Chicago. We don't. Some of us don't appreciate that we have a Navy Pier or a McCormick or a Lakefront. We don't. We see that as just commonality. The people of Chicago, they don't know how fortunate they are to have to have had Ron, Terry, Frankie, Andre, all of those names are people that you walk up to at a local party and say, "Hey, what's up?" When they overseas, you spend $40, $50 to see these people. But here in Chicago, they just to you, they're like just, "Oh, I saw them at the you know over here down the street or whatever." And we don't know how fortunate we are to have these people. The Mike Duns, for Mike Dunn to play every week over at Reynolds, and people experience him every Tuesday night at Reynolds. When Mike Dunn's overseas, you know, that's big money. Over there, it's free. Yeah, where do you get that at? You know, so all of those guys are hot, and I appreciate the fact that they appreciate me. Because they either like Mike Dunn and call me Mr. Analog. They call me old grumpy too, but that's because I'm getting older. But they call me Mr. Analog. So
That's
I
funny.
mean,
Well, Dwayne, you have and continue to have a really legendary career in sound and Chicago music and Chicago black music. I look forward to learning more and more about your career. There's so many things we haven't even covered today that we should cover about your career. Again, just so many things about how the music has evolved, how the speaker systems and you know systems for large events like a huge picnic for 40,000 people. How that's evolved. So I really want to do a round two or a part two with you sometime soon. I'm not going to keep you any more this evening, but I thank you so much for being on the show
well, I
tonight.
appreciate
And
it.
you are really, again, I can't state enough how much you helped me to understand how important the music form was, and how important you are to music in general. People don't tell you that every day. They really should be. People should know who you are the same way they know who Terry Hunter is. And hopefully, I'm going to make sure that that happens. So, um, well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I'm going to end the show here. We're going to keep talking though, but I'm going to end the show here, end the recording here. And thank you so much for again joining the Vintage House Show. The Vintage House Show is every Wednesday, 9 o'clock, on the Vintage House Show Facebook page, on the DJ.com YouTube page, on Lori Branch's YouTube and Facebook pages, and you will see the podcast on www.vintagehouseshow.com. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.
It's been